If you just listen to the ads.
To protect our rights, keep this madness out of Ohio.
Abortion.
Ohio's extreme abortion ban.
Parental rights.
Protect her. Now's your chance.
Even your voice as a voter. All are at risk on August 8th in a special election to decide Issue 1. What's true? What's really at stake? Find out now as we get the answers from the people on both sides who say they're trying to protect Ohio's future. From your local election headquarters, this is the Ohio Issue 1 debate.
It's an election that will decide the future of the Ohio Constitution, and it is happening in 2 weeks. Thank you for joining us tonight. I'm Colleen Marshall.
And I'm Matt Barnes. There's just one statewide issue on the ballot on August 8th, Issue 1, and we've all heard a lot of messaging about what it would do.
At its core, Issue 1 asks voters if it should be more difficult for citizens to amend the state constitution, requiring a 60% vote, or if Ohioans should keep the simple majority rule they've had in place for more than a century. Issue 1 would also make it more difficult for citizens to get amendments to the ballot in the first place.
Either way, the consequences of this special election will carry into this November and beyond. That's why we've brought elected officials and policy experts together to hold tonight's debate.
You are watching this on air or online from one of 6 Nexstar media stations serving Ohio. We are broadcasting live from Columbus to Cleveland, Dayton, Youngstown, Steubenville, and Huntington-Charleston, which reaches into southeast Ohio. And as we go through the debate, you can see our questions and the supporting documentation on Twitter using the hashtag OHIssue1Debate.
Now it's time to introduce our panelists. Representing the Vote Yes campaign are Ohio Secretary of State Frank LaRose, who is also running in the Republican primary for U.S. Senate, and Ohio Right to Life President and Republican strategist Mike Ganadakis.
And on the Vote No side, we have State Representative and Democratic House Minority Leader Allison Russo and Mike Curtin, the former editor of the Columbus Dispatch and a former Democratic state lawmaker.
Here's a quick rundown of the rules of our debate so you at home know what to expect. Questions will be directed to a specific panelist, and they will have 60 seconds to answer. A panelist from the opposing side will get 60 seconds to respond to the same question.
Panelists from either side might be given 30 seconds for a rebuttal or to answer a follow-up question at the moderator's discretion. When their time is up, you will hear a bell. Now, before we begin the debate, we want to give you an overview of what exactly Issue 1 is and how it could impact future elections.
State lawmakers voted in May to hold an August special election specifically for this issue. And Issue 1 could fundamentally change how citizens are able to amend the state constitution. Here's how.
Right now, when a citizen or group wants to pose a question to voters, they have to collect signatures from 44 of Ohio's 88 counties to get it on the ballot. But if Issue 1 passes, they would be required to gather signatures from all 88 counties. This would make Ohio the only state in the entire country to require petitioners to visit every county to gather signatures.
Under current law, once petition signatures are submitted, county boards of elections across the state verify them to make sure organizers have gathered the required number of signatures. If a group falls short, they have 10 days to collect more signatures. Issue 1 would eliminate that second chance, giving groups one opportunity to meet the signature requirement.
Right now, if an issue does make the ballot, it takes a simple majority of Ohioans to vote in favor of the amendment for it to pass, something that's been in place since the Constitutional Convention of 1912.
Issue 1 would increase that threshold to 60% for any constitutional amendment.
Now, here's how often Ohio has amended its constitution with citizen-backed amendments. Since 1914, there have been 20. 12 passed with more than 60% support, 8 passed with less than 60%. Since 1949, only 2 passed below that proposed threshold. They were recent: minimum wage in 2006 and casino gambling in 2009. So we begin our questions tonight with you, Secretary LaRose. That is 2 with less than 60% support in the last 75 years. So can you explain to voters why you think now is the time to change the Constitution? And you have 60 seconds.
Well, thank you, Colleen. This is quite simply about protecting the Ohio Constitution, about what may be to come. Special interest groups have figured out that Ohio is a relatively easy mark when it comes to amending our Constitution. They figured out that if you're willing to spend a few $1 million and run some deceitful ads, you may be able to get an extreme amendment put into our state constitution. Now, I would argue that constitutions aren't for policymaking. Constitutions lay out our fundamental rights, things that we broadly agree on, not 50% of us agree on, but things that we broadly embrace, and of course, the basic structure of government. Controversial issues, those questions about legalizing this or decriminalizing that, what people smoke or how people gamble or not, those kind of things don't belong in a constitution. They belong in the Ohio Revised Code. And of course, voters have ways to do that through the initiated statute process, which doesn't change under Issue 1. It's still a 50% plus 1 vote. And the referendum process for getting rid of laws that the people don't like remains at 50% plus 1. All that Issue 1 would do is elevate to 60%, and then, of course, the signature gathering threshold.
We thank you, Mr. Secretary, and we will go to you, Leader Russo. What do you say about the vulnerability of the Ohio Constitution?
Well, thank you, Colleen. I think the vulnerability of the Ohio Constitution, it's just simply not true. The reality is the vast majority of constitutional changes actually come from the legislature. They do not come from citizen-led initiatives. And when they do come from citizens, they often do not either make it in front of voters or they don't pass. And I think voters have been very judicious with this right that they have had for 111 years. And let's be clear, Issue 1 simply takes power away from voters and it gives more power to the politicians. And that's it. And I don't think that Ohio voters will be deceived by this.
Thanks to both of you. Next question comes from Matt.
And we'll start with you, Leader Russo. According to the Council of State Governments, Ohio is one of 14 states that allows citizens to change the Constitution with a simple majority vote. Now, of course, the U.S. Constitution requires a proposal from 2/3 of both houses of Congress or 2/3 of states, then ratification by 3/4 of state legislatures. Why shouldn't Ohio do what the federal government does, that ensure only matters of great consequence with broad support are constitutionalized? And you have 1 minute.
Well, first and foremost, I think it's important to note that our federal constitution, our U.S. Constitution and its purpose, and a state constitution are fundamentally different. And in fact, our founding fathers were very clear about this because they intended our states to be places where democracy could really be in the hands of the people and more power at the state to the people. Listen, the right to citizen-led initiatives with a simple majority has been a crown jewel of rights that Ohioans have had since 1912, as was pointed out. The only reason it is being attacked at this moment is the timing of a November ballot initiative, which I'm proud to say qualified today, defending the right to abortion. And that is simply the rush to get this on the ballot in an August special election and to change the rules of the game in the middle of the game.
Leader Russo, thank you. Secretary LaRose, you heard what Leader Russo had to say. Is the Ohio Constitution a living document? It should have fundamental changes. You have 60 seconds. It's
a living document to the extent that a large majority of us want to change it, and we will still have the power to do that with a majority, supermajority vote of 60%. That is what constitutions are all about. They're not for policy making. Policy making should be done in the Revised Code. Constitutions, again, are for those fundamental rights. And to me, it's about simply trusting the people of Ohio. As you mentioned, the large majority of constitutional amendments have passed with well over 60% votes. So really, there should be nothing to be alarmed about here. And when Leader Russo says that this is about empowering politicians, she's entirely wrong. This is about empowering the people of Ohio to protect their Constitution from out-of-state special interests that want to try to buy their way into our state's founding document. I'm here to say the Ohio Constitution is not for sale, and that's why why I'm voting yes on issue 1 and encouraging my fellow Ohioans to do the same.
Leader Russo, I'll give you 30 seconds in response.
Yes, this is a very disingenuous argument. If the Secretary of State was truly concerned about out-of-state special interest, he would ignore the fact that an out-of-state billionaire actually influenced this even coming before voters in the first place. Also, we've had the largest corruption scandal in the State House, and Ohio legislators and the Secretary of State have had 2.5 years to come up with ethics and campaign finance reform that actually addresses special interest. And again, issue 1 only punishes voters. It does not punish the politicians who were in power.
And Secretary LaRose, you have 30 seconds to respond as well.
Again, this is not about punishing anyone as much as it is protecting our state's constitution and making sure that lawmaking happens through the initiative statute process or through debate in both chambers of the Ohio General Assembly. And again, that we save our constitution for those fundamental rights that we broadly agree on, not 50% plus one. And again, a lot of other smart organizations know you would not want to empower a bare majority to change the very fundamental rules you operate by.
Thank you, Secretary. Colleen?
Well, in December, the Republican-led legislature banned special August elections. So we're going to stick with you, Secretary LaRose. You supported that ban, saying low turnout elections with a $20 million price tag are bad news for the civic health of our state. That turnout is embarrassingly low, and a handful of voters end up making big decisions. 3 months later, you championed this special August election. Why the change?
Well, to be clear, Colleen, I was pushing the General Assembly to put this on the May ballot. They chose not to do that. But let's also make an important distinction here. Eliminating August special elections for sewer district levies or school district levies, that's good public policy. And it's a smart thing that we did that. A constitutional amendment is not flying below the radar, and that's a good thing. We're seeing large turnout, and that makes us happy. It's a great thing that Ohioans are aware of this and have the ample opportunity to participate with Ohio's 4 weeks of early voting, in-person election day voting, and of course absentee voting. There's nobody not aware that there's an important question on the August 8th ballot, and they've got the opportunity to get out and make their voice heard. But this isn't about process. This is about the question that's in front of us, and supporting issue 1 is good for the state of Ohio. And again, that's why Ohioans are getting out in large numbers to support it.
Leader Russo, this was a change for the legislature and for the secretary. How do you react to his explanation for that?
Well, the hypocrisy has no bounds, Colleen. It's hard to keep up with the flip-flops. First, August special elections are bad. Now they're okay. At first, it wasn't okay, and he wasn't going to support it if the signature threshold increased, and now he's fine with that. At first, this is absolutely not about abortions, and now this is 100% about abortions. This was about protecting the Constitution from special interests, but perfectly okay for out-of-state billionaires to influence lawmakers to rush this to the ballot in August. So, again, I would go with the Secretary's words and actions, and it's been all over the place, so it's hard to keep up.
Mr. Secretary, I'm going to give you 30 seconds to respond to the charge of hypocrisy.
When your argument is intellectually bankrupt, I guess you try to turn to deceit. I've been clear all along. It was a good thing to eliminate August special elections. The General Assembly chose to hold this election. That's their choice. I've been clear all along that issue 1 is about protecting our Constitution. I never said it's exclusively about abortion. That's a lie. And it's clear that, again, Ohioans understand that, and that's why they're going to get out and vote yes on issue 1.
All right. Thank you both. Matt?
All right, this next question is for both sides, and we'll get our other panelists involved here. Each side accuses the other of allowing outside special interest groups to influence elections. Mr. Ganadakis, according to published reports, the Vote Yes campaign received at least $1.5 million in outside funding, while the campaign warns voters about outside influence. How do you explain that? You have 60 seconds.
Yeah, look, if we want to stop outside special interests, whether it be an Illinois billionaire, a liberal California billionaire, a liberal New York City billionaire, you vote yes on issue 1 on August 8th. Look, by protecting our Constitution, we can stop all the fringe elements, whether they be in California, New York, Illinois, wherever you want, conservative, liberal. We are Buckeyes. We determine what should be or not be in our Constitution. And that's why we can take the for sale sign off our state Constitution by voting yes on issue 1 and raising the threshold, because they're going to fly over our state when they realize they can't easily slip whatever they want with $10, $15, $50 million. If that Illinois billionaire that you mentioned, Matt, bothers you, vote yes on issue 1, because then he's not coming back to Ohio.
Mr. Ganadakis, thank you. Mr. Curtin, same question. The Vote No side is raising $1 million in outside funds from sources like the ACLU while condemning outside influence. Explain that to voters, and you have 60 seconds as well.
Mr. Ganadakis is a very effective State House lobbyist. Some consider him today the most powerful State House lobbyist on Capitol Square. He and a few others were able to persuade this General Assembly to go where no other General Assembly has gone in our 220 years of statehood in two respects. One, to propose a tremendous watering down, a reduction of a fundamental constitutional right that Ohioans have had for 111 years and have used responsibly. Ohio Constitution has not been a relatively easy mark, to use Secretary LaRosa's. It's been a very difficult mark. But these lobbyists got the State House to put this fundamental watering down of a constitutional right on the ballot, and then they got them to create out of thin air an August special election after they just had forbid them back in December. This has never happened before in 220 years of statehood. Never.
Mr. Curtin, thank you. Mr. Ganadakis, I'll give you 30 seconds to respond that he invoked your name.
Yeah, sure. I'm not sure how effective I am. I can't get my kids to clean their room on a regular basis, but I'll tell you, we worked with 62 of the 99 members of the House, and they voted yes. 26 of the 33 senators in the Ohio Senate voted yes to put this on the ballot. And I'm stunned that every Democrat voted no that doesn't believe that we have the fundamental right to practice democracy. They didn't want us to have the ability to go in all 88 counties at Public Square and have a debate what we want our Constitution to be. Allison and all of her allies voted no. They don't think we should have the right. And that's why we should vote yes on issue 1 on August 8th.
And Mr. Curtin, I'll give you 30 seconds to respond as well.
Their proposal for all 88 counties is the most extreme in the nation. No state does that. They would empower any one small county to exercise veto authority over what 99.9% of the rest of Ohioans in 87 counties would like a chance to vote on. An 88 county requirement is specifically intended to put a bullet through the head of the initiative process in Ohio, period.
Mr. Curtin, thank you. We're going to move to Colleen here.
Secretary LaRose and Leader Russo, while we're talking about all of this, while we're talking about this outside money and outside influence, can each of you tonight be more transparent on where the money is coming from and how much of your campaign, the percentage of the campaign, is coming from outside groups? Secretary LaRose, where is all of the money coming from?
Well, Colleen, as much as I'm proud to be out campaigning all over the state for Issue 1, I'm not an employee of or an officer of the Issue 1 campaign. I can tell you this, that they're following the laws on disclosure. You'll have to ask the Issue 1 campaign and consult the campaign finance reports that they will submit as far as where their money's coming from. I've not been tracking that personally or paying attention to that. I will, as Secretary of State, of course, make sure that they follow the law because that's my duty. But where the money's coming from is not something I've been paying attention to.
I'll ask you too, Leader Russo. Can you tell us tonight where the money is coming from and the percentage that's coming from out of the state?
So let me also be clear that I am not related to the Vote No campaign either, although I am out campaigning. Listen, this is what I know about the Vote No campaign, is that it has extreme broad support across the political spectrum. It is supported by all former governors, Republicans and Democrats. It's supported by all former attorney generals, Republicans and Democrats. It's supported by police. It's supported by firefighters. It's supported by teachers. It's supported by trade unions. It's supported by voting rights groups all across the ideological spectrum, people stepping up and saying, no, we will not allow this power grab and for you to take a fundamental right that we have had for 111 years.
Well, we do know that voters want to know where the money is coming from. So I'm going to offer 30 seconds to any of you who will identify and be transparent about the source of your money specifically. Mr. Curtin?
Colleen, unfortunately, because of the Citizens United case by the U.S. Supreme Court quite a few years ago, there's a dark money industry, a big dark money industry in this nation and across all these states that have important elections, and none of us are going to be able to track a lot of that money on both sides. That's just a reality.
This, by the way, is also one of the reasons
30 seconds, sir.
Thank you, Colleen. One of the reasons why it's so important that we not allow our Constitution to be for sale and to make sure that we stand up and say that only with a supermajority vote can you change our state's founding document. I can tell you that it seems like, based on the airwaves, that the Yes campaign is being outspent by the No campaign, and I've got to imagine a lot of their money is pouring in from out of state.
All right, thanks
Colleen,
to all of you. Oh, I'm
if
sorry.
I have a chance to respond to this, let us be
30
clear that issue 1 does absolutely nothing to address special interest money, whether it be a ballot initiative or a campaign for a candidate. Even though we are coming off the largest public corruption scandal in our state's history, again, if people are interested in addressing special interest money in campaigns, then you need to address how we do campaign finance reform and ethics reform. It is not by taking away the power of the people to step up and keep their government accountable. In fact, I would argue that it makes corruption and dark money worse.
All right, thanks to all 4 of you. And Matt has the next question.
And to come to you, Secretary LaRose. Former Democrat governors Strickland and Celeste, and former Republican governors Taft and Kasich all say issue 1 is wrong for Ohio. Why are the former governors wrong? And we'll give you 60 seconds to respond.
Well, I mean, these are senior statesmen and women that have served our state, but I just simply disagree with them. Listen, look at the people that are currently in charge that have been elected by the people of our state, and you'll find that there's strong unanimity on the Republican side that we should step up and protect our Constitution. This idea that there's some bipartisan support for a no vote on issue 1 is a pretty hollow idea. I think we've cherry-picked a couple former elected officials that may have wandered from their conservative ideology to oppose issue 1, but I don't think that means that there's any kind of unanimity in opposition to it.
And then Leader Russo, you heard what he had to say. The current legislature and the current governor are for issue 1. What's your response? You have 60 seconds.
Listen, I listed out the broad coalition that is against issue 1. It crosses the ideological spectrum. It crosses political parties. I would point out that recent polling data shows that 1/3 of Republicans don't support this. So again, I think the people and former electeds, regardless of political party, they see right through this. The motivation is clearly to stop a reproductive rights amendment, but the implications go so far beyond that and take away a right that Ohioans have had for over a century. And most people do not think this is a good idea.
Mr. Ganadakis, I'll give you 30 seconds as well. I mean, not just former governors, but former attorneys generals have also said they're not for issue 1. You have 30 seconds to respond.
Sure, as the only person that's not a former or current elected official, I would say respectfully, who cares? The political class can vote how they want, and we, the people, can show up at the ballot box and vote the way we want. Gone are the days where a former governor or former this or that tells us what to do and sit down and be quiet. We, the people, are going to step up on August 8th and say enough is enough. We're sick and tired of being sick and tired with the political class in Columbus, and we're going to protect our Constitution. And then when there's an idea, a policy idea that gets introduced, we can go to Allison Russo, who's a state representative, and she can introduce it. We can go and debate it, make it better, substitute bills. That's what we should be doing. That's the power we have.
Mr. Ganadakis, thank you. Colleen has the next question.
Mr. Curtin, this goes to you. A bipartisan group studied the Ohio Constitution and back in 2017 recommended increasing the threshold for constitutional amendments from 50 to 55%. And they argued at the time that it would require bipartisan support for these kinds of amendments. Why not work toward bipartisan support and make amendments to the Constitution be held to a higher standard? 60 seconds, sir.
The committee of that Constitutional Modernization Commission recommended examining the 55% requirement for constitutional amendments in exchange for reforming the statutory initiative process, which is seldom used, to try to incentivize more statutory initiatives. But every group that came out, every citizen group that came out to testified against it. Not one single group came to testify in favor of that concept. Not conservative groups, not middle of the road groups, not liberal groups. They all came out in unison to oppose it. They wanted to stay with what we had. They thought what we had was working. And so the commission tabled that proposal. That was a bipartisan tabling. And we solved this problem. This whole proposal is based on a false premise. It doesn't exist. It's a myth. In 2015, Ohio voters wisely passed an anti-special interest amendment that says what? It says, thou shalt not use the initiative process of this state, of this Constitution, to create a special benefit for anyone. That door has been locked and closed. It's over.
So, Mr. Ganadakis, what do you respond to that? He says this entire thing is not necessary.
Well, it's absolutely necessary, Colleen. Look, weed is at our doorstep, abortion's at our doorstep in our Constitution. Those are decisions that should be made by the legislature. We elect people like Allison Russo every 2 and 4 years, and we get to hold Allison accountable. We hold our politicians accountable every 2 or 4 years, and we vote. It's a 50% plus one when she either wins or loses with 50% plus one. If we don't like what she's doing, we can vote her out of office. If we like what she's doing, we keep her in office. But when you put something in our state constitution, it's there for life. It's so undemocratic. When the ballot board approves this language, it's take it or leave it. We can't debate it. We can't go and offer an amendment to it. What the abortion issue right now, it's stuck. It's right there. We couldn't make it better. We couldn't fix it. That's what we do at the State House, Colleen. That's not what we do. Policy doesn't belong in our Constitution. Policy belongs at the State House with politicians like Allison having committee hearings and deciding what's best for Ohio. And then we, the people, hold her accountable based on her votes. That's democracy in action, not buying your way into our state constitution.
Ms. Russo, we want you to respond to that then. He's saying, leave the policy making up to you and other members of the legislature. Why do we need to have citizen-backed constitutional amendments?
Yeah, it's stunning to me to hear this because, listen, we've got two people who are supporting this issue. One who voted 7 times against constitutional or for unconstitutional maps. One who took a case to federal court to ensure that the districts that we have now are unconstitutional, continue to be gerrymandered, ignoring the will of voters twice about having fair districts. The reality is, because of those gerrymandered districts in the legislature, we have extreme policies that do not reflect the will of the people and have not been responsive.
I saw you making a motion over there, Mr. Secretary. We're going to let you weigh in for 30 seconds as well.
Yeah, the deceit and hypocrisy from the no side is pretty rich on this. When they, of course, protect their own bylaws with a 60% supermajority, the Ohio Democratic Party, the League of Women Voters, the AFL-CIO, all of these groups know that you would never want to empower a tiny majority, a simple majority, to change the foundational rules of your organization. It's good enough for them. Why can't we protect the Constitution, just like most other states do the same way?
All right, thanks to all of you. Matt has the next question.
Mr. Gunadakis, we'll start with you. A bipartisan group of more than 36 CEOs and business leaders of major Ohio businesses signed a letter in opposition to Issue 1, claiming when coupled with Ohio's abortion restrictions, it sends the wrong message to the nation and poses the risk to attracting and retaining 21st century talent. What do you say to those business leaders? You have 60 seconds.
Respectfully, it's a ridiculous statement, and they can all go vote no. We just learned this week that Ohio has a 3.4% unemployment rate, and we have great laws, pro-life laws, pro-family laws on the books presently today. So their red herring argument doesn't hold any water. Look, at the end of the day, the Ohio Chamber of Commerce endorses, the Ohio Hotel Association, the Restaurant Association, National Federation of Independent Business, the Ohio Farm Bureau, NRA, Ohio Right to Life. Obviously, I'm here tonight. Our strength on our side, our yes side, is the diversity of our coalition. The Ohio Chamber of Commerce has endorsed this. Small businesses, they're made up mainly of small business owners, and they know, they're all voting yes because they know that the crazy environmentalists, the mandatory salaries that they want to put in our state constitution will cause them to go bankrupt. They don't care about abortion, they care about their businesses. That's why they're voting yes. And those 30 CEOs that signed the document, go vote no. The rest of us are voting yes.
Mr. Gunadakis, thank you. Mr. Curtin, for example, Central Ohio has seen major companies like Intel, Google, Honda expanded to the region. So are these business leaders who signed that letter seeing a problem that doesn't exist? You have 60 seconds.
It is a problem that doesn't exist. It's a threat to a fundamental constitutional right that Ohioans have used responsibly. They've not abused it. There have been 19 passed over 111 years. That's fewer than the number of perfect games that have been thrown in baseball since 1912. 20 perfect games and tens and thousands of Major League Baseball games. And Ohioans have been judicious. They've been careful. They've been prudent. 19 in 111 years, and that's why Ohio's police officers and firefighters and nurses and teachers and construction workers and members of 200 organizations are saying vote no.
Mr. Curtin, thank you. Mr. Gunadakis, 30 seconds.
Yeah, I would respectfully say that the men and women in law enforcement that actually work every day to protect us on the streets are voting yes. They don't care what their fat cat union bosses say down at the State House. They're voting yes. I met recently with the local FOP chairman, Jeff Simpson, of the lodge here, and I made a video for his members so they could realize that qualified immunity is on the line. There's an organization, Ohioans Against Qualified Immunity, that wants to put what? In our Constitution and get rid of their legal shield. The men and women in law enforcement watched the video and they realized, hey, we need to vote yes to protect our pension, our way of life, regardless of what their union bosses say. That's what the problem is. The political class is trying to control us, we the people.
And I'll give you 30 seconds if either of you want to respond to that at all.
The biggest, deepest pocketed political class in this country are supporting these sorts of things in states across the country. But Ohioans smell the rat, just like South Dakotans smelled the rat last year, just like the people of Arkansas smelled the rat. They tried the same thing in South Dakota and Arkansas last year, and they crushed it. And Ohioans have to crush this just like that.
Mr. Curtin, thank you. Colleen.
We're going to do something that voters are doing every day. We're going to look at television ads. There are going to be ads that were produced by each campaign, and we're going to give each side a chance to react. And we're going to start with an ad that was produced by Protect Women Ohio, urging Ohioans to vote yes on Issue 1.
Caught. The out-of-state groups fighting Issue 1 keep saying it's just about abortion. But it's not, and they know it. These special interest groups want to allow minors to get sex changes without parental consent. URGE says parental consent laws are unethical and need to be abolished. The ACLU, they're against informing parents about their kids transitioning in school. To save parental rights in Ohio, vote yes on Issue 1 on August 8th.
So, Mr. Curtin, we're going to give you the first opportunity to respond. 60 seconds for your take on that ad.
It's scurrilous. It's complete trash. It's complete myth. That ad's been fact-checked by newspapers across this state. It's been fact-checked by this station. It's been fact-checked by independent viewers all over the state. It's garbage. It's 100% untrue.
Mr. Ganadakis, your reaction to the ad?
Well, those are ridiculous statements by my friend Mike Curtin, because the Planned Parenthood ballot amendment is less than 250 words. You don't have to be a lawyer to read it. I've debated this on your programs, Colleen, day in and day out. It absolutely takes away parental consent if they're successful, which they won't be in November. That's how dangerous it is. It absolutely allows for a late-term abortion up to and through the 9th month of pregnancy. That's truth in advertising. If someone doesn't like it, sue us. No one's sued a shed on it. It's absolutely factually accurate, and that's what's coming from Planned Parenthood if we don't protect our Constitution with a yes vote on August 8th.
I've got to chime in as well. I mean, we're talking about protecting Ohio from becoming California. There are all kinds of bad ideas out on the West Coast that they want to try to buy their way in here with, and that ad lays out just a few of them. What they didn't even get into is extreme livestock care standards that would put farmers out of business. Again, a radical increase in the minimum wage that would put people out of work. I mean, the list of bad things coming our way if we don't all vote yes on Issue 1 is pretty long, and that ad just goes through a few of them.
Leader Russo, we're going to give you 30 seconds as well to respond to that ad.
Yeah, so I think it's outrageously false. And, you know, I would say I would encourage citizens to go and look at the reproductive rights ballot amendment language. It's available online for you to read for yourself. But also, listen, it's hard to take seriously two people, one a politician, one an anti-abortion lobbyist, who support a total abortion ban with no exceptions for rape or incest. Take anything that they say seriously about what a reproductive rights amendment actually does.
All right, thanks to all of you. Matt?
And now let's take a look at an ad from the Vote No side. This one is from One Person, One Vote.
These documents protect our fundamental freedoms. But a constitutional amendment this August called Issue 1 would permanently remove our rights from the Ohio Constitution. Issue 1 ends majority rule in Ohio, undermining the sacred principle of one person, one vote, shredding the idea that we the people decide what happens here, handing corrupt politicians and special interests more control. Protect our rights and the freedom to make our own decisions. Vote no on Issue 1.
And Secretary Rose, we'll begin with you. What is your reaction to the claims that are made in that ad? We'll give you
again, entirely deceitful. We're talking about protecting the Constitution from the people who wish to shred it. But listen, the left is very clever. They use these focus group tested words like, majority rule, sacred, we the people. Those are words that tug at our heartstrings as conservatives. And that dishonest ad has fooled some conservatives to thinking that the conservative view is no. Of course, we know that the conservative view is to vote yes on Issue 1. And that's why that ad is effective in their own way. And that's why it's important that we call it out for what it is, a completely dishonest ad.
Secretary LaRose, thank you. Leader Russo, your response to those criticisms?
Yeah, well, again, I think the ad is accurate. It clearly lays out that Issue 1 does shred our Constitution. It takes away majority rule. I don't know how you call 39% majority rule. It also, because of the signature requirement, it kills citizen-led constitutional amendments in that process and leaves the ability to put constitutional changes forward only to the legislature by raising that threshold. So I think it's entirely entirely accurate.
Leader Russo, thank you. Secretary Leach, 30 seconds.
Yeah, let's talk about this concept of one person, one vote and majority rule. We respect one person, one vote and majority rule, and it's alive and well after the passage of issue 1 for lawmaking, for changing the laws through initiated statute or for referendum. But when it comes to the Constitution, you don't want a simple majority to be able to change the foundational document. I would ask my colleagues down here if they would support changing the federal Constitution to allow 50% of the states to amend it. That would be a foolish idea. It would result in chaos, and we wouldn't want to see the U.S. Constitution changing on a year-by-year basis.
I have to give you 30 seconds to respond.
I'm going to give credit.
Anybody who tries to compare any state constitution to the U.S. Constitution flunks Federalism 101, flunks Constitutionalism 101. Madison said it best when he said, "The powers reserved to the U.S. Constitution will be few and defined. The powers reserved to state constitutions will be numerous and indefinite." Why? Because the founders intended to leave all the details to the states and to state constitutions. It's a ridiculous and false argument.
Mr. Curtin, we're going to leave that there. I want to move to the next question. It is for you, Mr. Gonadakis.
And it does go to you, Mr. Gonadakis. The language in issue 1 addresses amending the Constitution. There's no mention of gender affirmation surgery. Additionally, the executive director of the Ohio Children's Hospital Association, Nick Lashutka, testified to state lawmakers that all treatment in our children's hospitals has always required and will always require parental consent. Nick Lashutka was speaking on behalf of pediatric medical community when he made those comments. After hearing that statement, do you believe the Vote Yes ad is misleading to voters? Explain your answer, and you have 60 seconds.
No, it's spot on right. And Mr. Lashutka, no matter what he may or may not want to do, if God forbid the Planned Parenthood ACLU amendment wins, it doesn't matter because the Constitution trumps our elected officials like Allison. The Constitution trumps state law and whatever the opinion is of the CEO of any hospital in Ohio. And that's why they're purposely doing this in our state Constitution. They know they can't get their radical agenda in our legislature and through our governor because we elect good men and women, both Democrat and Republican, to stop radical ideas. So what they're doing is they're trying to buy their way in the state Constitution. So if any CEO in Ohio says, oh, we're still going to require parental consent, well, that doesn't matter because the Constitution will say if Planned Parenthood is right, you can't require parental consent. And that CEO can get sued. That hospital system could get sued for millions of dollars if Planned Parenthood wins. Now, they're not going to win because we're going to vote yes on issue 1 on August 8th, and we're going to defeat them in November.
I'm going to go to you for a response to that, Mr. Curtin. After hearing what Mr. Lashutka says about doctors never doing this to a child without parental consent, your response to his summary of that ad.
Nick Lashutka nailed it. He spoke the truth. The reality is that the medical community of this state is deathly afraid of issue 1. They're almost all in opposition because it ignores medicine. It lies about parental consent, and it's just a scurrilous lie.
I will go back to you for a 30-second response to that.
That's simply not true. Whatever the feelings are of a doctor or a CEO at a multi-billion-dollar hospital doesn't matter when you put something in the Constitution. That's why we're saying let's have Allison and the politicians at the State House make those decisions, and then we can hold them accountable at elections and on election day, or we can make your idea better. We can amend it. We can go and testify. We can do a substitute bill, and then we can do that. But by plopping something in our state Constitution, Colleen, it's there for life. Good ideas and bad ideas, and we need to stop it.
And Leader Russo, we want you to respond to that because there's been so much confusion about these ads.
Yeah, I think it's pretty abhorrent that these ads use children and the personal medical decisions of their families as a red herring for really being afraid of the people's power to go to the Constitution and instill reproductive rights. Listen, it's hard to sit here and hear about radical ideas when, I'm standing next to the lobbyists, the anti-abortion lobbyists, who literally helped author the near total abortion ban that Ohio has currently with no exceptions for rape or incest.
All right, thank you all for that. Matt?
Leader Russo, this question starts with you. Some vote no ads accuse the other side of holding views that don't reflect the values of Ohioans, especially on abortion. But since 2010, Ohio voters have elected Republicans into every statewide office and into the U.S. Senate besides Democrat Sherrod Brown. Leader Russo, isn't your side out of step with public opinion? You have 60 seconds to respond.
Well, listen, the most recent public opinion on we'll use reproductive rights, since that's likely that will be on the ballot in November, shows that the vast majority of Ohioans do support access to legal and safe abortion care. Listen, trying to say that the legislature somehow reflects the values of Ohio voters, a legislature that has been one of the worst gerrymandered in the country. Again, we currently are serving in unconstitutionals as declared by the Ohio Supreme Court, a bipartisan group of justices, 5 times, is a bit outrageous. And when you look at the extreme policies that are being passed in the State House and where Ohioans really are on some of these issues, they are vastly out of step. And again, Ohio has this right that when they are that out of step or they are corrupt, that they can go to the ballot box and demand changes that reflect where they actually are.
Leader Russo, thank you. Secretary LaRose, I'm going to come to you for 60 seconds here. You heard her argument that the views the Republicans have are radical, extreme, out of step. Your response to that?
Again, when you can't argue the merits, you argue the process. Talking about gerrymandering, the lines of the state of Ohio have been in place for a long time, and from everything from the lake to the river, Ohioans have been overwhelmingly electing my fellow Republicans, my fellow conservatives, who share their values, because they recognize that it's people in the Republican Party who are helping Ohio grow and bring in new business, who are standing up to protect our Midwestern values against the onslaught from out west and wherever else it may come from. And again, that's what issue 1 is all about. It's about trusting the people of Ohio to reach a supermajority of 60% if we're going to change the Constitution. If you got 51 or 52% that like your idea, change the revised code. But if you can't get a broad, bipartisan, north, south, east, and west kind of consensus together, then leave our Constitution alone.
Secretary LaRose, thank you. Mr. Curtin, you have 30 seconds.
We must learn from history. If we don't learn from history, we pay dearly for it. We have an 1851 Constitution. It's the 9th oldest in the nation. Secretary LaRose might not like it, but it's always been a policy document. All state constitutions are policy documents. If we had a 60% requirement in place in previous years, the Ohio Constitution would still say that the Ohio National Guard is for white males only. Blacks and women need not apply. The legislature had to put an amendment on the ballot to allow blacks to be legally in the Constitution, and that passed with less than 60. Same with women, 50% plus 1.
Mr. Curtin, thank you. Mr. Godakis, I can see you're itching to get involved. I'll give you 30 seconds as well.
Yeah, there are over 30 states in the United States that don't allow citizens to go to ballot like we do here in Ohio. Over 30 states. And based on Mr. Curtin's argument is that women can't vote in those states. African Americans don't have the same rights in those states. That's just simply not true. Women can vote in all states. Women have rights in all 50 states. So there's different processes to accomplish the greater good, not polluting our state constitution. And yes, I agree with them. Let's learn from history. It wasn't too long ago Mr. Curtin didn't like something that was put in the Constitution, gambling. We had to go and spend tens of millions of dollars to change an address from a downtown location for a casino in Columbus out to West Broad Street because Mr. Curtin didn't like that. It spent millions of dollars of taxpayer money.
Mr. Gondakis, thank you. Mr. Curtin, 30 seconds.
Their whole campaign keeps putting down and running down our Ohio Constitution as being an easy mark and out of step with 38 other states. Ohio has the best state constitution in the nation right now. Why? Because the bedrock principle in our Constitution is and always has been trust the people. When Teddy Roosevelt came here in 1912, he said, you better have that initiative. Trust the people and not the state house politicians. Trust the people. No other state constitution respects trust of the people more than the Ohio Constitution.
And Secretary LaRose, I'll give you the final 30 seconds on this topic.
Do we have a representative republic or do we have a direct democracy? And what we have here is a representative republic. If you don't like your state legislature, then you should change that. And you should make that institution work the way it's supposed to. But to go to the ballot every year, just like California does with proposition this and proposition that, that's a mess. It creates instability. It drives jobs out of our states. And it would cause real chaos in the state of Ohio. That's why we're protecting the Ohio Constitution with the yes vote on issue 1.
Thank you, Secretary. And we're going to stay pretty much on this topic.
Yeah, we're kind of coming back to you along the same topic with this question, Mr. Curtin. There are other ways for Ohio citizens to change the Constitution here in Ohio. They can propose statutes. They can propose referendums. Why isn't that enough? And you have 60 seconds.
Because there's so much in the Constitution that's fundamental. our property taxes would be out of control right now if we didn't have the initiative, the constitutional initiative to hold down our property taxes. Ohioans had to do that 3 times when the state legislature was ignoring them. We went to the ballot, the citizens did, through the initiative process for tax reform, for tax limitation. That's where the 10 mil limit came from. That was not a gift from the legislature. And what Secretary LaRose is talking about, Teddy Roosevelt called false constitutionalism. In 1912, when he came here, he said, beware of the false constitutionalism of the self-professed conservatives who will always side with the moneyed interests against the people. That's exactly what he's doing.
And we will give you, Mr. Ganadakis, you have the response to this for 1 minute, but we're going to get to you as well, Secretary LaRose. So, Mr. Ganadakis, your response to his concerns about the Constitution.
Well, look, at the end of the day, we have to ask ourselves is that all issue 1 is saying is that if we are going to amend or change our Constitution, we need to have the broad consent of the governed. That's democracy. We can't have these divisive issues, as Frank said moments ago, turn us into California, 10 propositions a year. That's not who we are as a state of Ohio. That's why we elect people like Allison, and we elect others to go and make policy at the State House. At the end of the day, we get one shot at this, Colleen. This issue is never coming back. We're either going to protect our Constitution or we're not. If you're a family farmer, if you're pro-life, if you're pro-Second Amendment, the NRA is standing shoulder to shoulder with us. I can give you 100 reasons to vote yes and very few to vote no on this, but Ohioans are coming together saying enough is enough, okay? We elect men and women with a 50% plus 1 every 2 and 4 years, and we'll hold you accountable, but we can't hold the Illinois billionaire accountable, and we can't hold the Hollywood billionaire accountable when they ram something through our state constitution.
Secretary LaRose, I want to give you the chance to respond because he did accuse you and other Republicans as being kind of the false conservatives. Your reaction to that, you have 30 seconds.
Mr. Curtin's a historian, and I appreciate his walks down memory lane, but to say that somehow that African Americans or women would not be able to serve in the Ohio National Guard, it's ridiculous. Of course, Ohioans support the diverse military that we have, a military that I serve in. I've served side by side with some great soldiers of all different kinds. And, this idea that we have to do everything via a constitutional amendment is absolutely foolish. So many of these things can be done in statute. And if it's a broadly supported idea, it should be able to reach a 60% threshold.
We're going to give a last word now to Leader Russo. You have not weighed in on this very important constitutional topic. 30 seconds.
Look, let's be absolutely clear. No one in the public asked for issue 1. Issue 1 was brought to the legislature because they were very afraid of the reproductive rights ballot initiative that was moving forward quickly onto the November ballot. No one in the public asked for this. This came directly from politicians who were afraid that they were going to lose their grip on power and from an out-of-state billionaire who funded that effort. And I just have to be super clear about this, that this entirely puts power in the hands of politicians, not citizens.
Thanks to all 4 of you. Matt?
In Ohio, the current requirement to get a constitutional amendment on the ballot requires signatures from 44 of Ohio's 88 counties. Now, if issue 1 is approved, signatures would have to be gathered from all 88 counties, and the extra time to allow corrections to petition signatures would end. Mr. Curtin, I'll go to you. 11 million people live in Ohio. Large metropolitan areas have the most people, but any constitutional amendment would affect all Ohio citizens. Why shouldn't voices in all counties be represented in the ballot signature process? You have 60 seconds.
No state does that, and they do it for a good reason, because of one person, one vote. Last year, the Michigan Supreme Court declared unconstitutional a geographically based signature requirement just like this one. In 1977, the Ohio Constitutional Revision Commission recommended to the legislature to eliminate the 44 county requirement as a violation of one person, one vote. It's still there. It's very difficult. To make it an 88 county requirement would give any one county with less than 0.5% of the population, and we have 26 of those counties, under 40,000 population, veto authority over what 99.9% of the rest of Ohioans in 87 counties would like a chance to vote on. That's why I'm saying this would be a bullet through the head of the initiative. It's intended to be a bullet through the head of the initiative. It's intended to incapacitate it, because reaching 88 counties would be almost impossible, as Secretary Lowe said last December before he changed his position, because only the most deep-pocketed people could do that.
Mr. Curtin, thank you. Mr. Gondakis, I'll start with you, and Mr. Rose will give you a chance to jump in. But the reverse is true. As Mr. Curtin said, one county out of 88 could prevent a measure from reaching the ballot. if they do not gain enough signatures. How is that fair to the rest of the state? You have 60 seconds.
Yeah, thanks, Matt. Look, our current system is rigged. Any outside billionaire can come in and cherry pick and poach his favorite or her favorite 44 counties, get their signatures, and go home. And guess what, though? As we all know, the Ohio Constitution applies to not just 44 counties, it applies to all of us in all 88 counties. But for far too long, we have people in Western Ohio, where I spend a lot of time, never get an opportunity to weigh in this, but yet these out-of-state billionaires will put something in the Constitution and they have to live with it. They have to live with it because the Constitution applies to all 88 counties. What we're saying is, look, everyone should be able to have a say. In Vinton County is probably our smallest county, 13,000 people, give or take. 5% is 650 people. If you cannot find 650 people in any county in Ohio to support it, it probably shouldn't go in the Constitution. All of us, all 88 counties, all men and women, regardless of race, creed, color, sexual orientation, should have a say in all 88 counties before we put something on the Constitution that applies to all of us.
Mr. Gunadakis, 15 seconds, Mr. Lawrence.
Let's put things back in perspective here. Remember, the vast majority of states allow no ability for the citizens to put a constitutional question on the ballot. The vast majority of states. Ohio's one of only 18 states that do have that, and it'll still be alive and well after Issue 1 passes. The only question is Ohio's diversity its strength, and shouldn't all counties be
Thank you, Secretary. Colleen?
Yeah.
In the interest of time, we are going to move on, but this question goes to you, Leader Russo. A group called Ohio Conservatives PAC sent an email to gun owners in support of Issue 1. And the email stated, leftists are attempting to enshrine abortion in the state's constitution. If they are successful, next year it will be gun control. Can you assure Ohio gun owners that there will not be a proposal to infringe on Second Amendment rights? You have 60 seconds.
Well, listen, I'm not privy to any information about upcoming initiatives that may or may not be proposed. But again, I think that the importance of the citizen-led constitutional amendment process is that when the legislature is unresponsive and is not in lockstep with where the public is, that it empowers the citizens to have direct access to the democracy and put those issues forward. And listen, we are Ohio. We are not other states. Ohio has had this right for 111 years, and Ohio voters have used it judiciously. And I trust Ohio voters to get this right as they have gotten it right in years past. And I'm going to agree with Mr. Gunadakis here. The current system is rigged because there's absolutely nothing that stops those out-of-state special interests from going directly to a lawmaker, influencing their vote in the legislation to again pass legislation that benefits only special interests or is out of step with the public.
I'm going to give you a quick 15-second follow-up. Can you assure voters, though, that there will not be an assault on Second Amendment rights? Is that something that you envision could come out of this?
Listen, I'm not going to stand here and make assurances for issues that I'm not aware may or may not come forward. There's nothing in my mind that also doesn't ensure voters that someone won't go forward and put a pro-Second Amendment initiative before voters to vote on, as they have the right to do and should.
And we're going to give you a minute, Secretary LaRose, to respond to that.
Yeah, so let's talk about the list of things that we are aware of that are either being talked about or for which there are signatures being gathered right now. A massive increase in minimum wage. That's slated for next year's ballot. They're trying to do that. It'll kill businesses. An extreme livestock care standard written by PETA or somebody else that wants to put Ohio farmers out of business. Yes, gun control that would take away the individual right to keep and bear arms. There are groups that actively want to put that in the Constitution. And sure, one of the things that we're worried about this November that now will be on the ballot, as my office announced today because they had the requisite number of signatures, is the most extreme abortion amendment in the country that would take away parental rights and really subject children to potential child abuse without the parents even knowing. That's something to be afraid of, and that's one of the reasons why Ohioans should vote yes on Issue 1, but just one.
We're running out of time, but I see Mr. Curtin wants to weigh in. We're going to give you 15 seconds, sir.
The reason that the minimum wage amendment was on the ballot in 2006 was because the minimum wage was stuck at $4.25 for 15 straight years. Legislators would not increase it, and while their pay went up by 43%.
All right, I'm going to go now back to you, Secretary LaRose. While we are talking about messaging, there's an online ad by Progress Action Fund that portrays a Republican lawmaker who says, now that we're in charge, we're banning birth control. Can you assure voters that Republicans will not try to ban contraception?
100%, I can tell you that every reasonable person I know thinks that people should be able to have access to that if that's what they choose. It's a moral question for some people. Some people don't want to use it, others do. But this is an example of what kind of deceitful ads there are right now. There is this salacious ad that depicts a sex scene that's being used to say that people want to take away non-abortion contraceptives. No reasonable person is talking about banning the use of contraceptives. Let's be clear about this and stop the fear-mongering.
I'm going to go over to you now, Leader Russo. There's been accusations of fear-mongering from both sides. You've probably seen that online ad. Your reaction to what Secretary LaRose says about it?
Look, the reality is I serve in the legislature. We get a number of extreme pieces of legislation, including those that would effectively end some forms of birth control as well as IVF. We currently have legislation, again, mostly written by Mr. Ganadakis here, that bans abortions before most women even know that they are pregnant, with no exceptions for rape or incest. I live in the reality of what actually has been introduced and voted on in the legislature, not the fear mongering. And absolutely, we have politicians right now in the State House who are inserting themselves into the private decision making of individuals and families.
Mr. Ganadakis, we're going to give you 30 seconds to react.
Well, remarkably, Allison didn't answer your question because she can't cite a piece of legislation that bans contraception. I don't know who would even think about doing that. That's ridiculous. There's no one that has an agenda to ban contraception. It's fear mongering, as you guys said, as Mr. LaRose said. That's what it is. And the laws we do, the legislation, it's a law, actually. It's a law we have in Ohio that protects babies with beating hearts. And I believe most Ohioans do believe that babies with beating hearts should be protected. So yes, Allison, I did proudly work on that. And I'm proud of that because I think any human being with a beating heart should be protected. But at the end of the day, Colleen, your question specifically focused on contraception. There's no legislation for it.
Mr. Curtin, we're going to give you 30 seconds to respond to all of this.
Issue 1, supporters of Issue 1 do not trust the people. We trust the people. The bedrock principle of our Constitution is trust the people. That's served us well for 111 years.
All right, we thank all of the panelists. We are out of time. And now it is time for closing statements. Each side will have 1 minute to give a final statement, their final plea to voters.
And a coin flip decided who would go first, and we began with Secretary LaRose. Why should voters approve Issue 1? You have 60 seconds.
Join a large coalition of Ohio small business owners and farmers, Ohioans of all walks of life, who believe that we should protect our Constitution, who trust that the people of Ohio will join together and vote in excess of 60% if there's something that's worthy of being enshrined in our state Constitution. The other side doesn't trust the voters, and they want to try to ram through a radical agenda with a bare majority of 51 or 52%. Again, if you've got 51 or 52% that like your idea, change the law, work with the legislature, do an initiated statute. If you can't get a broad bipartisan consensus majority together, then leave our Constitution alone. And that's why I'm voting yes on Issue 1 and encouraging you to do the same.
Secretary, thank you.
And we are going to get from the vote no side a final statement tonight from Leader Russo.
Well, put simply, Issue 1 has been designed to give more power to politicians and to dilute the power of your vote, the people's vote. The bedrock of Ohio's Constitution has always been trust the people. And for more than 111 years, Ohio's right to citizen-led constitutional initiatives has been a promise that when the government is unresponsive or corrupt, the people have the final check on our government with a simple majority. Politicians in power are now attempting to block and change this promise with Issue 1. Issue 1 further rigs the game to ensure that majority or minority rule of the powerful few will control the government, not the people. And by scheduling this special election in August, they think that you will not be paying attention. They think that you were too stupid to see that Issue 1 actually only protects corrupt politicians and special interests while hurting voters. But I know that you see right through this scheme. If you believe in majority rule, vote no on Issue 1. If you believe in one person, one vote, vote no on Issue 1. If you believe in the fundamental freedom to determine your future, I urge you to vote no on Issue 1.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And you've heard the arguments from both sides. Now it's up to voters. The special election election happens August 8th. That's 2 weeks from today. Polls open at 6:30 in the morning and go open till 7:30 in the evening.
And early in-person and absentee voting by mail is underway right now. In-person hours are on your screen, and you have to go to your Board of Elections office to cast your absentee ballot when it is filled out.
We want to thank all of our panelists for being with us tonight from your local election headquarters in Columbus. Have a good evening.